Hi, welcome back to my channel, Scale Model Kit Review, and welcome back to another installment of the FanHome Build the Millennium Falcon. I am currently working on pack number 9, stages 37 through 41. That's 5 more stages I'll be completing in this video. This video primarily comprises of building the ramp. Now, I'll be building other items in this, and it's a lot of fun here, so stay tuned for that. If you haven't done so already, head over to FanHome and subscribe to this today. FanHome is actively taking subscriptions for this, so don't pass on that opportunity. So without further ado, let's get started. Welcome back to Scale Model Kit Review Studio, and welcome back to another installment of the FanHome Star Wars Build the Millennium Falcon. I am currently working on shipment number 9, or pack 9, stages 37 through 41. And this is fantastic here. I get to continue to build this replica of the Empire Strikes Back 3-foot studio model of the Millennium Falcon. So what came with pack 9 are, of course, the 5 stages, 37 through 41. Also, I did receive the free magazine holder, and that's great there. Been receiving these all along through this subscription. Your subscription may vary with being able to receive those magazine holders. Let's go ahead and look at the parts that came in this pack. Stage 37 looks like we begin on the ramp. Stage 38, more parts for the entry ramp. Stage 39 looks like the motor assembly for the ramp. Stage 40, some more armor plating for the Falcon, plus some clear parts. And stage 41 looks like we received some the gun ports. Get started on that. Let's go ahead and get started on stage 37. And if you haven't done so already, head over to FanHome and subscribe to this kit today. It's fantastic, and they are actively taking subscriptions for this, so head over there and sign up for today before you miss out. But you can see here with 37, we'll look at the articles here just real quick. Storm 4 Twin Pod, the Cloud Car, and then boarding ramps, very appropriate here. We're going to be building that. And our instructions there, and we'll look at those a little closer as we get started. A lot to do here. So let me get the parts and I will be right back. Here's the parts for 37. Let's get a closer look. Here's a close-up of those parts, and here's our boarding ramp component here. Very nice. Some LED lights for that area. Some more frame parts for the boarding area. And more screws and connectors. And we'll begin here with the ramp subframe and some of the parts with that. Then assembling the ramp subframes themselves, and I'll take you through that step by step, how it works, what I do here. Continuing with that. And remember, the key here is to get all your screws started, then tighten them down last. Then we'll detail the whole panel for this. Add the greebles. Continue with that. And that's what it should look like. Let's get started. Bring over this frame part here. We're going to add to it in this stage. Remember, we assembled this in the previous pack. And here's those parts we're going to add to it, along with the connectors. I'll go ahead and assemble this, and I'll be right back. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to add some connectors to the frame we already assembled, and added this connector here on the right side. We're putting in those longer, thin gold screws, and I'm going to leave them loose just a little bit. Next, I'm going to add another connector to that, so I'm going to insert that into there, and I'm going to put in 2 more screws for that. And I'm going to leave these 4 screws loose while I assemble the other frames. Okay, I mounted everything loosely. I installed 2 screws up here on top for these panels here. I also installed 2 screws over here on the side and 2 over here with the connectors. Turn it over, and on the other side we put in 3 connectors right here, right here, right here with the small black button head screws. Now let's work on the hull panel BP28. I'll go ahead and tighten these down, and in the meantime we'll go ahead and work on hull panel BP28. Went ahead and grabbed all my parts I need for this stage to complete the hull panel, and these come from stage 36, which I had hidden away, stored away in this bag. Also need this hull panel from 36, pretty large there, and they want us to dry fit everything before we glue them down. They only install one way. I'll be using my ABS glue. The plastic for this kit is ABS. You could use extra thin Tamiya glue if you wanted. You could also use super glue. This dries really fast, and I already test fitted it, so it goes on just like that. And like I said, it dries pretty fast. It's almost just like super glue. Just hold it for a few seconds, and just want to make sure everything fits flush up against the sides. Next we're going to install this greeble, and this is the rear deck of a Panther tank. Pretty cool. That's going to glue down right there. Just like that. And it only goes on one way. There you go. Now I'll let those dry. That completes stage 37. Let's head over and do stage 38. Welcome back. This is stage 38. And we look here at the article here, Sentinel class landing craft. And we're going to work on the ramp, prepare the ramp parts themselves, fitting the ramp lights, LED lights there. I'm going to prepare the ramp itself in the next steps, assembling the hinge. We definitely want to use some thread locker, some Loctite for that. I use the blue, they show the red here. Hinging the ramp. And continuing the articles here, The Secrets of Space Flight. Very cool there. Let me get the parts, I'll be right back. Here's the parts for 38. Let's get a closer look. Here's a close-up of those parts. Here's the ramp itself. That's what that looks like there. Lots of small pieces here for the ramp. Here's the hinge assembly. Everything's made of metal. And more ramp parts over here on the right. Some very tiny screws here. Assemble the ramp, prepare the hinge mechanism. Here's the parts. Going to put on the LED lights for the ramp. Going to go ahead and prepare the ramp. Assemble the hinge using some of that Loctite on the screws, because we got to leave some of the screws loose, but they need to be secured. And you can see here they did paint the ramp with a gray, so that's optional. I'll go ahead and do that. Next, I'll go ahead and take my LED light strip, and it's got to go through that hole right there. And I already peeled back the back coating on this, and I'm going to lay it down flat. There we go. And that's how that looks there. Go ahead and install the ramp extension here first, and it's going to sandwich across these little tabs here on the end so it's able to move just like that, and it will be able to hinge back and forth on those tabs. We're going to sandwich this part on top of that. Going to put a little bit of glue in here to hold that together. And that's how that looks. And I plan on painting the floor of the ramp with Mr. Surfacer 500. It's already gray. Should work out perfectly for that. While the Mr. Surfacer dries, I'm going to go ahead and give this a paint of gray after it's dried. I'm going to go ahead and glue down these parts here that they want us to put in next. There's one on each side. And the other side here. There we go. We'll let that dry a little bit. These are called the ramp seals. And while that all dries, I'm going to go ahead and assemble the hinge assembly. And we're going to need 6 of the frame screws, the black ones, the button heads, to assemble this, plus some Loctite. Talked about that, and I'll show you what I've done when I have this assembled. The arms have been screwed in with 2 of those screws, and they are tight. I just made sure that they are even with each other on both sides before I tighten them down. And you can see how they get installed. Next, we're going to bring over this part here, and it's going to go essentially just like that. And the 2 screws we're going to put in on each side are going to be put in loosely. They're going to be tight but loose, so it's able to rotate. And there's the hinge. And still loose, but the screws do have Loctite thread locker on them. So while the ramp dries here, I fitted the hinge to the ramp, inserted it all the way. Be using these silver screws with the flanges on them to secure that down. And they're all screwed down, and the ramp lowers and raises with no problem. And here's the ramp assembled, and I painted the floor. It actuates like it should, no problem. I used Pro Acryl paints for this, the neutral gray. And that completes stage 38. Let's head over and do stage 39. Welcome back to stage 39, and we'll continue on with this pack. VCX 100 Freighter, the Ghost. It's really cool there. Cargo handling. And we'll assemble the hydraulic actuating struts. Attach the ramp to the metal subframe. So we'll talk a little bit about this motor and assemble the actuators themselves. Fitting the pivots, attaching the ramp to the frame. A lot to do here, but it shouldn't be that bad at all. Here's the parts for stage 39. Let's get a closer look. Here's those parts, and here's some pins. They weren't actually inside of the bubble wrap that this was contained inside of. Right, but here's the motor, and you'll see that there's micro switch on this end here, and a micro switch on that end there. And they tell us we're not to operate this yet until we have the control board hooked up to it. It's just going to be a simple install. And just to help you identify some of the parts here, these are the long cylinder pivot mountings, and you can see how I have them facing here with the smaller parts facing you. And we have the left one and the right one. And same thing with the short cylinder mountings, We have the left side here and the right side. And here's the parts for the left cylinder. The shorter cylinder, we'll be using the shorter pin. And here's the longer pin against that. Insert the pin through this. And then in there. And just press it down for a tight fit. It can be glued later. And just make sure the pin is in there straight. Earlier when I showed you the parts, I showed a bag with small screws. They weren't screws, they're actually these very tiny pins that go in these pivot points. I took the pivot points, I cut them off the sprue tree, and I cleaned them up. And that's how that looks. I inserted the pin just like that from the back side. And that's how that looks there. I'll go ahead and do the other three, and I'll be right back. Next, we're going to go ahead and put the frame on top here, and we want to make sure all the lugs get inserted like they should on the back side here. So it's just going to take a little bit of wiggling to get them all in place. Pressing in place, and we're going to put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 total screws, and those are the screws with the flanges on them, the silver ones. And all 8 screws are in. Nice and tight, and that's how that looks there. And the ramp lowers and raises. Very good. Next, I bring over the motor. We're going to install this pivot point right here with one of the pins we received in this stage. Longer pin. There you go. That's how that looks. I'll put just probably a little bit of super glue on this end to hold everything in place. Next, you need to take this pivot and press it firmly onto the socket on the ramp. God. And the arm is attached to the door, so you have the light on it. And I installed the 4 screws on each side of the motor. After your rod is glued down the proper way, you'll note that the narrow side of the actuator is sticking towards the back, towards the opening, and how everything is hinged together here. Same with this side. Give you a close-up of that. There you go. And you can see how it's glued down. Then we'll mount the bracket down and use 2 of those black screws we've been using for the frames to secure that in place. And that's how that side looks, both of them installed. So I just need to secure the other side in place. And you can see all the actuators are installed. And note that you have the long brackets with the long actuator, the long pins, the short bracket with the short actuator and the short pins. That's how that looks. It looks great. And there you go. That completes stage 39. Got a lot done here. Definitely used a lot of glue with this one, super glue, with some accelerator to help it along a little faster. But it looks great. Now let's head over and do stage 40. Welcome back. Let's look at stage 40 here, magazine. Look at the articles here first. Starship fact file, the Soulless One. And combat techniques 2, dogfighting. And our next parts we received here, more hull framing parts. Clear parts for the cockpit windows and such. And we're going to fit the ramp frame to the structure, the rest of the structure. Let me get the parts, I'll be right back. Here's the parts for stage 40. Let's get a closer look. And here's more of the hull plating. This is the one with blast marks on it. And of course, most of us are painting ours, so this has really no effect on that. But I will mark a number 40 on that, keeping that in mind. We have the clear glazing parts for the turret. We have 2 of them, the upper and lower turret. And the cockpit windows also, clear glazing for those. And know that the filming miniature did not have windows, but probably a good idea to put these on to keep the dust out. And we have the greebles. Very cool. And more screws. And here's a close-up of the instructions for stage 40, the lower hull frame. And all the parts were received with this. And we're going to complete the lower frame by attaching the ramp section that we just assembled. It's all going to get mounted to the lower frame. Again, putting in more screws, and I will show you what I did. Let's get started. Okay, here's the Millennium Falcon framing that we've already completed all the way up to now. And we'll bring over the ramp part, and that's going to mount onto this. We received 3 connectors to mount over here along the side here, 3 connectors, and then we already have the connectors mounted on the other side. We'll have to put in, looks like 4 screws up top, and the rest are screws down the sides. I'll get them all started, and then I'll tighten them down when I have them all started. I'll be right back. Okay, I have everything lined up and all the screws are installed. Just need to tighten them all down, but I got the screws all in along here, right there, and along the side over here. Looks good. I'll be right back. And there you go. That completes stage 40. We have a completed Millennium Falcon on the underside now. It looks great. Let's head over and do the final stage for this pack, stage 41. And welcome back. Here's stage 41, the final stage for pack number 9. Jedi Starfighter ETA-2 Actis class Interceptor. Very cool there. And the YT-1300 fuel system. And our assembly instructions, will be assembling the dorsal gunner's control. Quite a bit going on there. Let me get the parts, I'll be right back. Here's the parts for stage 41. Let's get a closer look. And here's a close-up of those parts. Another framing part here. Hull plating. 2 more pieces of hull plating. Dorsal gunner parts. Some pins. Instrument panel. And LED light. And here's a close-up of the instrument panel stickers. Got to be careful because 3 of them were hidden away up near the label of the bag, but I found them and here they are. Going to go ahead and start building the gunner seat, and these are the parts for that. We received this in the previous stage. Start gluing these parts together here. Put a little glue on this. A little bit of the glue on a stick here. Apply it in that hole. And we're going to put the steering handles on it with that nub sticking forward right there. And more glue down in here. There we go. That's how that looks. That's good there. And the next part in front of it. And just as they show in the illustration, here's the stickers and where they go, contingent to which side they stick to. And there they are. They're stuck on where they need to be. Next I took the LED and I glued it in place on top there. And now I'm going to assemble the 2 halves together. I did put some super glue on the 2 halves. Go ahead and line that notch up. Go. Lay that down. Take and put the rotating seat in place. And secure that down with a flange, one of those silver flange screws. That's all assembled. And that's all I do with stage 41. Looks great. I'll be right back. And there you go. That completes pack 9, where I completed stages 37 through 41. We have the ramp completed here, and we have the complete lower Millennium Falcon frames completed. And we installed some greeblies onto this and built one of the gun positions. It's fantastic there. If you think you'd like to get this for yourself, head over to FanHome and subscribe to this today. They are actively taking subscriptions as I speak. So head over there and don't miss out on your opportunity to sign up for this exact replica of the Empire Strikes Back Millennium Falcon. If you like my content, please subscribe to my channel and smash that like button. Happy modeling, everybody, and we'll see you on pack 10.